Hello students, this is Advanced Java. Today this college is closed on 3/25. I wanted to make sure I have some slight extra discussion of employee list class. We completed the add employee, find employee, toString method last time and printed a list. You have copy of that, either paper copy, or if you're not in the class and you requested to mail it, that was mailed to you. So I'm just going to go from there and add some extra methods to it. I would, as needed, I will explain the algorithm, but if algorithm is short, then I'm just going to show you the code and discuss the algorithm right there. So we come back to Eclipse. This is being done on Mac, but doesn't make any difference. It's the same environment. So sometime we need a method called MakeEmpty, and purpose of MakeEmpty method in the class is that if we had class populated employee list class, so this is employee list class already populated, we just want to make sure that we can reuse it, but we just want to make sure that it starts with an empty state. So code for that is actually very simple. I can set the number of elements to 0 and list state to 1, and once the number of elements is set to 0, although it does not delete the elements that are there, but once you start to use the add employee method, this one, it's gonna just because is full will be false, so it's just going to overwrite over and above the existing elements. Okay, so MakeEmpty code is actually very simple, and we set the list state to equal to 1 because we always assume that the starting list is disordered even if it is not disordered. We just make that assumption. So the MakeEmpty would empty a list, and if you try to find number of elements in it, you'll get number of elements 0. Okay, so that's a pretty simple method. Sometimes what happens is that if we want to look for an employee with a social security number, FindEmployee, as you know, let's look at the FindEmployee for a moment. So FindEmployee returns a index for an employee whose social security number has been passed, and that index, as you can see from the code, that index is such where employee is found, and later on I may want to print it. So how can I print it if I don't know what it is? Because FindEmployee is only returning me the index where employee is located. So in order to print that, I will use the method getEmployeeAt. So getEmployeeAt simply takes an index where employee may be in the list, in my list, and it returns the employee at that index. Okay, but of course a user mistakenly may pass an index of -1 less than 0 or larger than the number of elements. Okay, so in that case we say no such index exists. Okay, index cannot be, if index is larger than number of elements -1, then it doesn't exist. Okay, the number of elements is already index 1 larger than the last index, so we have to use this parameter here. So then it will throw an exception because we don't want to return something other than employee or return exception mechanism. So this will return the employee at index 0 or higher. Okay, we can test this one. So let's go to our testing test list. So test list has an employee list EAL, and E1 is John Doe, E2 is Mary Doe, E3 is Lisa Jones. E4 was not added because there were duplicate social security number. So if I want to print, let's say, so according to this, John Doe will be the first, index 0, Mary Doe will be index 1, and Lisa Jones will be index 2. So let's print at index 1 using get index at. So really that's actually pretty simple, and here we'll just type EAL dot get index get employee at, and I'll just put the index 1, and if that prints Mary Doe, that means our get employee at method is working correctly. So let's run it. And okay, that came from here, don't need to worry about that. So there it is, Mary Doe, social security number 223344, and of course we had a print statement here for EAL. That's why you're seeing the output prior to that. Okay, so get employee at means it's working. Okay, all right, so that's that. We'll go back to our list and discuss other methods. All right, just like you had get instance for the employee class, which is here, we need a corresponding method for the employee list class, which will take the input from the keyboard and return an employee. Okay, so let's look at the code. Notice that I already have a get instance for the employee, so I can just make use of that. And the way this will work, I declare a employee list object EAL using the default constructor that will create a list of which can store up to 100 employees, and I run a for loop which has two conditions. So here I set the done to false, and then I say not done will be true, and index is less than capacity. Capacity, as you know, is the capacity of the list, which we set to 100. And by the way, I changed the access to static type rather than non-static type because we're going to use that in a static method. So let's get back to get instance. So I basically my index is 0 here, so at index 0 I will fill the first employee, and all I have to do for that is just call the get instance method of the employee class, because that takes care of us for that automatically. And we could, let's see, we could use the add employee also. That's the other option. So I will show that the second version maybe a little bit later, not today but another time, because add employee will work just the same. But here we are doing the direct assignment, and there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, there could be something wrong with that. We could end up employee of duplicate social security number. So let me pause this and fix that. Okay, I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I fixed that because that employee controls the number of elements filled, and duplication denied automatically. That's a much better way to do it than we were trying to do. So when this method is called, and I could do a few more things here. I could check for the fact that list is already not filled, although add-employee will do that for me. So maybe I'll skip that for the time being. But I create a list. Actually, it won't be filled because it's a new list, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so add-employee will invoke employee.getInstance, and if I go to getInstance method with employee, it'll just, okay, I'm not there yet, so now I'm there. Okay, so getInstance2 if you like. You can call getInstance2 or getInstance. I'll just ask first name, last name, social security, etc. And looks like getInstance2 is a slightly better version, so I'm just going to go with that actually. So really just to getInstance2. Okay. Alright, we may want to test this one right now to make sure that this one does work. And what I'll do, I'll add one more class here called test list 2 or something. So I can just check only get instance. Actually, I didn't mean to change it here. Sorry about that. I meant to change it here actually too. Okay, that's fine. Alright, so let's add one more class to test whether this one is working or not. So I right click, add a new class, and just say test list 2. And I do need a main method in there. Finish. And same thing, I say employee list EAL equal to new. Actually, I don't even have to do that. I could say employee list dot get instance, and then the code inside get instance would be invoked. EAL will be returned, and then I can just print the EAL. And of course, you have not seen the code for that yet, but I have the code there, which will I explain later, but it's available. So I'm just gonna print that actually right now. EAL, which will tell me the list was built correctly. So let's just do that. So let's see, run as Java application, and notice that invocation of the first name came. So I'll just add some of the same thing that I added earlier. John Doe, sorry, 112233, hours, let's say 35, pay rate, we'll keep it simple, 10. More data, enter 1 to continue, and now the first name again. So let's say Mary, last name again Doe, 223344, hours, let's say 40, period 11. More data, enter 1 more. Lisa Jones, 445566, enter hour, let's say 41, and pay rate is 10, and I don't want any more data, so I enter 0. And notice that whatever we entered got added to the list. John Doe, social security number, hours worked 35, $10 a pay rate, multiply these to 350. Mary Doe, 40, multiply by 11, 440. Lisa Jones, 41, 10, 415, because the extra hour will be paid at $15 per hour. Number of employee in list 3. List is unsorted on any basis. So obviously my get instance from the keyboard for the employee list class is working. I'm satisfied with that. It's not a problem. Okay. So that's how